Hello YouTubers, this is Duke Pilot with another video on the TR182. I've had some requests for systems description and interior description, so I'll do the best I can with my little handheld Verb 30 camera here. I'm not much of a professional photographer, as you can see, but I'll do my best. About every 3 or 4 months I'll decowl the airplane and just look around, see if anything's going on. So we'll start there since we can describe some systems. If you watch my other videos, you'll know I chose this airplane for its simple engine systems and operation and easy maintenance. And let's just start with how this airplane gets air first. Air comes through this bracket air filter for the engine, comes down to this box down here, which this is for your carburetor heat. If you pull the cable, it'll move this cable here, shut off airflow. It'll allow raw air to come in instead of filtered air, and it'll pull heat from this muff right here off the exhaust system, and then bring that air back to the engine. This, believe it or not, really isn't needed. In a normally aspirated plane, it's needed. In this airplane here, you are not going to see low enough temperatures to get induction icing in this airplane. So I rarely use it. I exercise the cable without the engine running once in a while just to make sure that it's not bound up. But you really don't want to exercise this on the ground because you're bringing unfiltered air into the engine when you actuate this carburetor heat. So it's really not needed on this airplane, but it is installed. From there, though, however, after it comes through the filter, runs through this big tube down here into the turbo. And then the turbo either brings it back into the engine through induction, or it dumps it overboard. And I know this is hard to see, and I apologize, but where my finger's pointing down here is a manual wastegate. So this wastegate opens and closes according to the throttle position you have. It's not automatic, it's all manual. So the air is either being dumped overboard or it's being redirected back into the intake of the engine. So very simple system, all manual, no automatic components to fail. One thing I like about this airplane, and I'll flip to the other side here so you can see it better. Some people would see this as a negative. I see it as a positive. Back here, we have a carburetor instead of a fuel injection system. And you say, well, carburetor, that's old school. Why would anyone want that? Not as efficient. Well, it really is as efficient as fuel injection. Fuel injection on an airplane engine isn't like your car, where your car uses electronic pulse wave modulation fuel injection. In other words, a car puts the perfect amount of fuel for each cylinder, perfectly timed, perfectly atomized into your engine, and even newer cars use direct injection, putting it right into the cylinder on the compression stroke. In airplanes, we're running them at a very high power setting relative to normal use, and it requires, you're going to get about the same BFSC with a carburetor as you will with fuel injection. Now, fuel injection has some advantages, there's no doubt. In some airplanes, especially Continentals, and Lycomings also, you can run them lean a peak and save some fuel there, there's no doubt about that. But you get all sorts of other problems with fuel injection, such as upper deck pressure problems, automatic wastegate controller problem. Well, that's really not a fuel injection problem, that's more of a controller problem. But hot start problems are horrible in Continentals. The big bore Continentals, if your engine's hot, you about got to flood the tar out of it to get it started. With this airplane, you can land, let it sit 5 minutes, heat soak, turn the key and it'll fire right up. A carburetor rebuild's about $500. A fuel, and that's the whole system on this airplane, the fuel system. A fuel injection system, you could spend $3 or $4 grand rebuilding it. So give me a carburetor any day on a simple airplane like this. I'm perfectly happy with it. Heat on this airplane, to get cabin heats just like any airplane. The heat comes in through the front here, through the cowling. Goes into a hose, which goes into a heater muff This muff surrounds the right side exhaust stack here, then travels up this hose to this mixing box. I currently have the heat off, so what's happening now is the air is just ejecting right back out here instead of going into the cabin. There's a door closed in here, not allowing the heat to enter. If I pull a knob in there, this cable here will pull this door shut. It'll pull off the ability for cold air to either mix in or be ejected, and instead directs it into the cabin. Very simple. Again, very simple. One thing I do not like on the TR182, or the older 182s, this 24-volt battery sits up front here where it's not needed weight-wise. This airplane, if anything, is too nose-heavy, not tail-heavy. In the later models, they moved the battery to the rear of the airplane, which makes more sense. Plus, I don't like having a battery like this jammed in the engine compartment where it's hot, especially right behind the exhaust. I think this was a poor idea. I like the idea of them being back in the back of the airplane better, in my opinion. One thing I did install, however, I'd recommend everyone do this. This cable here that I have velcroed to the top of the heat box is my battery minder cable. And what's a battery minder? A lot of you probably already know, but it simply hooks up when I'm done flying. I'll run this cable outside the cowling through the oil check door, and I'll plug it into this unit down here. And it's simply a battery charger, but it's specific to airplanes and it's specific to these type of batteries. What a battery minder does is it pulses charging into the battery to keep it from sulfating. What's sulfating? Sulfating is where the sulfur in the sulfuric acid breaks away and attaches to the plates in the battery, causing the plates not to be able to do their chemical reaction and transfer of power. So what this does is keeps the battery from sulfating. I had one of these on my other airplanes and got 7 years out of a battery. This is a 24-volt version, which 24-volt battery, obviously. But when these batteries are $500 and $600 now, so buying a $200 charger that'll extend the life of your battery is awesome. So I use that. Other than that, there's not a whole lot to say about the engine. Very simple, again, very simple design. And again, one other thing I like is the alternator in here, which is down here, is belt driven. There's a belt here coming right off, I guess what you call the starter ring flywheel. It's very simple again. Much rather have a belt than a gear-driven alternator. I can rebuild this alternator for about $250. Gear-driven one's going to cost you $700, and all sorts of problems if they do let loose internally. So one thing I was a little disappointed on this plane, it's not a big deal, but this engine was rebuilt by, probably can't see the tag in there, but it's Poplar Grove Aeromotive. They're a pretty good shop up there around Chicago. It's got about 150 hours on it. It's in great shape. It's about 2.5 years old. Wonderful. The engine went 2,200 hours before its rebuild, and they rebuilt it. But they rebuilt it because it was starting to make metal, which 200 hours over TBO, not too bad. But it's usually standard procedure that you replace this oil cooler here, especially if you're making oil in an engine rebuild. You know, they're $800, $700, so I get why it's painful to replace it. But if you're making metal in your engine, the last thing you want is metal in the oil cooler when you're done when you get your new engine. Plus, I don't know if you can tell here, but the top of the oil cooler gets the most air, of course, here. And you can see these cooling fins are all bent. I can almost guarantee you there's almost no airflow through the top here. Very little here, very little here, little better here, very, very little here. Now down low, the air cooler, where it obviously hasn't been smashed with bugs and rain and everything else, it's better. But this is a 40-year-old oil cooler, 40-year-old oil cooler. When you rebuild your $45,000 engine, put a $700 oil cooler in and be done with it. My oil temperatures are running a little high, not horrible, but I'm going to rip this thing out and put a new one in next week. The maintenance has been wonderful on this plane, but I just don't know why they wouldn't replace that oil cooler. Any good technician should have told the owner, and maybe they did, and the oil owner said, hey, it's on condition, right? It works. Leave it. But really good. They did replace all the hoses all of what we call your 5-year hoses. They replaced all them at the overhaul, which is wonderful. But that oil cooler really bothered me. Other than that, let's move to the interior, because I've had some requests for that. By the way, the cowling halves pop off real easy on this plane. They use cam locks where you just twist the screw and they pop right off. Gives you nice, easy access to work on the motor. Show the back first here. By the way, I always keep a tool kit with me. A couple quarts of oil, wrenches, small tools in a bag, socket set, zip ties, rags, funnels, a little bit of everything in there. Enough to get me on the stuff I can legally fix, being that I'm not a APIA. I can fix just about anything in this plane that I'm allowed to do just with a simple toolkit. So I keep it in the back of the plane. Nice baggage door in the 182. Good size. You can get full-size suitcases. I don't use full-size suitcases. I use soft bags just because they're easier to pack. But it not only has this, it has back here an additional shelf. Some people call it a hat shelf, but it holds 80 pounds back here. And I keep my cover back there. I keep a full cover for the airplane along with a blanket for the wife, and the toolkit goes back here also. So it's out of the way. I don't use those things often, the toolkit and the blanket, so it makes sense to shove it way back there in the back where you're not going to use it. So you can carry, I think it's 150 pounds? No, 120 pounds maximum. And so you can have 120 pounds in the main part and up to 80 pounds back here for a total of 200 pounds. That'd be a lot of weight back here. I've never had that kind of weight back here, but anyway, that's the baggage compartment. And then the rear seats. One nice thing about the 182, you get very wide opening to get in. Nice access for rear passengers to get in. They don't have to crawl over seats. The seat goes way forward on the pilot side and passenger side. The rear seats, I've got them split right now. This seat here folds all the way down, so if you want to put large things in here, they can rest on the back of the seat. And I have this one leaned back, so these seats lean way back, which is really nice for passengers, and the headrest will move up too. If you're on a long trip and someone takes a nap, you can lean that seat way back, ton of leg room, and they can really get comfortable. Plenty of headroom, nice vents for the rear passengers back here. Each passenger also has their own oxygen port right there, and this oxygen system holds pressure just fine, holding 2,000 psi right now. Oxygen ports up front also, on off to turn it on and off. So there's the oxygen on, there's off. So very nice, great to have built-in oxygen. Very comfortable seats. Nice windows that open. And you can fly with these windows open, I think all the way to, maybe all the way to redline speed. I'll have to find the placard. There's a placard in here that tells you. I usually shut them on takeoff. But very nice for ventilation. When you're flying, you can stick your arm out stick your elbow out when you're taxiing, and just very comfortable. So really like that feature. Let's go around the other side. I'll show you the other seat. Again, on the passenger side, you have the same window that opens. Nice and easy. This also has door stewards on it, which is this little shock here at the bottom. They're kind of nice because when you open the door, there I am saying it's nice, it's worn out. Better replace them. Little shock here that hooks up. It does hold them open in the wind though, which is nice. It keeps them open if you get the wind gusting. One nice thing too, this airplane has the optional, I don't know if you call it 6-way articulating or 8-way, but it has two different knobs in it. One of them reclines the seat back. As I'm doing, I'm just twisting the knob, it reclines it back or brings it forward. Very smooth, simple operation. And the other one, there's a knob down here. This brings the seat up and down. So as I'm cranking it right, it's going down. And these seats will go down to the floor. I mean, it's amazing how low they'll go. You could literally be 7 foot tall and fly this airplane. I am short. I'm 5'9", So I crank them all the way up. Right to the stop. There we are. So I like them all the way up. Lots of storage room. I keep the POA down there with the emergency procedures and also the added equipment list. I keep batteries, pens over here. Batteries for the headrests. So I just push them out, batteries come out. Or for the headphones, I'm sorry. My new panel, I have, by the way, I have these AV100 Akg headsets. Absolutely love Akg. They make really good professional sound equipment. They quit making headsets. Bose kind of ran them out of business, I guess. But what's cool is they even have little LED lights built into them down here. So if you can hit a button on the controller and these LEDs, they're like flashlights for you. So if you have emergency failure, you can just go to your headrest controller and you can turn them on and hit the lights. Look at that. Really nice. Really bright. So really like that. My new panel's gonna, these do, another thing I like about the AKGs, I'm using standard jacks right now, but all you do is disconnect them right here and it's a LEMO plug. So my new airplane, or my new panel's gonna have powered LEMOs. So I'll just plug this LEMO in, that'll power my active noise cancellation and the lights in the headset. So that'll be nice to have. 182 has a very simple fuel system. It's both left or right. You always leave it on both unless you're refueling. You turn it either on the left or right while you're refueling. And what that does is it keeps the fuel from cross-filling from one side to the other, so you make sure you get both sides full. Little backup pump right there. That's needed if you have a hydraulic power pack failure, which is located way back there, the hydraulic power pack. You just hand pump the gear down. So very simple system. Very big trim wheels, nose left and right and nose up down, cowl flaps, standard power quadrant. So panel's nothing great right now, but again, this is getting a full Dynon screen coming right now. I'll be keeping the 530W. I just put a 450B audio panel, and that PS Engineering 450B is the nicest audio panel you can buy. They're absolutely spectacular. So highly recommend one of them. But that's the 430W, that'll stay. The KX155 is going to stay. The Stratus ADSB transponder is going to stay. The PS Engineering CD player and all this below will go away. There'll be a 10-inch screen here, 10-inch screen over there, backup over there, and a Sirius satellite radio receiver will sit here, and my ELT will sit right there. So where the autopilot current is. The whole panel is going to get ripped out, and new panel will be fabricated as well. Not much more to say other than the ventilation is also very nice in these 182s. This one does have the Rosen visors, which is nice because the sun with that big windshield is pretty strong. But these vents put out a tremendous amount of air, and really like these vents. These are the Soros Incorporated replacement vents. And they're really nice, get a lot of nice air right on your face and work really good. So overall, very serviceable interior, leather's in good shape, door panels are nice shape. They did a good job. Another thing though, in the summer or in the winter, these vents, even though they're the better ones, they will leak some air. So what you do, someone teach that guy not to cycle his prop 7 times on the ramp, but in the winter what you do is you cover these ports with white tape. I keep a thing of white vinyl tape. You just cover that port. This is that's actually for the rear seat. This is for the front seat. Excuse me, this one's for the front seat. Just cover this with this white vinyl tape and you don't even notice it. And that keeps any air from even getting to the vents, which is nice. So other than that, I don't know what to say. It's a pretty straightforward, simple airplane. Again, just had some requests for seeing what the interior of this aircraft looked like, along with a description of the systems. And I hope you enjoyed the video. I appreciate you watching.